Karnell and I will get started. And when I say get started, this is actually your time. So, in other words, what we have to talk about is stuff that you want to know. So, some of you submitted questions early, and we have those. And I'm going to talk about those with Karnell. And we're hoping that you'll continue to ask a lot of questions because at this point, Q&A is for me to cover some of the bases, but also you've got this unique opportunity to talk to someone who makes sure that our community becomes what it's meant to be. And so, we got to make sure to make best use of that resource.
Sounds good.
So for students here, they're kind of curious about the culture of read and how we would describe the culture of read.
Readies care about readies. And that's an important part of this campus community and the ways that we engage with each other, the way we talk with each other, the ways that we have each other's back. And that's something that that was one of the reasons that I was attracted to read when I first started here in 2020. And so for me, this idea around community is really important to our culture here. I would say the other piece of it is that our students care equally about social justice issues that are happening not only here on campus, but also in the world. And so that influences our campus culture. So again, folks are really excited and get really, really pumped about various issues that are impacting them and the community. Folks come to read because they want this rigorous intellectual environment. And so that's another element that comes up as part of our culture. I would say the other piece too is that our students have kind of a wicked sense of humor. Yeah. Students like to have fun, and I would say most students who are say, I got to spend all my time in the library. I'm trying to study. And one of the things that Student Senate does, and one of the things that a lot of our clubs and orgs do is like, the whole point is like, let's have a little fun. We study enough, we're in class enough. How do we, making sure that students are having fun and have the places for outlet from all the academic elements, because that's part of this experience. It's not just all about the academics. We do want our students to be engaged on campus and doing fun activities, but also doing that stuff off campus as well.
How can students take advantage of downtown Portland or the immediate surroundings? How convenient is it to travel to Portland without a car? So I'll start on this one. I mean, that's check out our Roman Reedy videos, and those are real experiences, not just those with me and Karnell, but with some of our current students. Mm-hmm. We give them a camera and we say, hey, what would you do on a typical day? And they're hanging out in Selwood, they're going on donut hunts, they're checking out the zoo, the gardens on campus. And the idea is that we really want y'all to know what it's like being a part of town, being a part of Portland. And part of going to school in Portland proper, I mean, you're in Portland, means you're right on the bus line, you're 2 blocks away from light rail. We've got, the scooters, electric scooters on campus. It's a biking city, the second ranked number 2 for best places to bike. So that kind of answers the second part of your question is like, no, you don't need a car to get around. Right. And while we don't have a car policy, a lot of students don't bring their car to campus, and that is absolutely not an issue.
So I see there's a question about the Great Fund that I can probably answer a little bit about. And so the Great Fund is, again, one of the things that I tell faculty and I tell my colleagues is that fun is an academic term in my mind. And so the Great Fund is meant to actually create opportunities for faculty, staff, and students to do fun activities together. And so sometimes we do these individually as a small group. Sometimes we do them large scale as well on campus, that it's inviting faculty, staff, and students together. So it could be anything from having a food truck and having what we call spring fling, where everyone comes to campus and then we're doing all kinds of activities on campus, to actually we have one year we did a helicopter ride where faculty, staff, students came together, a small group, went and did helicopter rides. And so the Great Fund covers the expenses for those opportunities for students and faculty and staff to come together and have fun.
I'm merging a couple of questions. We might also talk about some of our affinity groups on campus, how students connect, who they are as an individual. And I'll touch a little bit on the classes part, and we can kind of go back and forth with that. Yeah. You probably saw through some of our sessions, a lot of languages are offered here on campus. And there are some places that connect the languages, like linguistics, which is just the study of language itself. But the language programs that we offer here, French, German, Russian, Chinese, of Spanish, and I think I'm missing one more. Students can often major in these programs, or they can minor in the programs. The cool thing with the language house is that you also have about the languages, you also have language houses. So Spanish house, French house, Spanish house is adding another house because of the demand, over there. And so there's a lot of ways where you can get involved in the language arts.
And that's a great, if I can just interrupt there.
Oh yeah, please do.
The pieces too about the language house. So that's a partnership between the academic unit of the college and student life. And so for our students who are going into their sophomore year or junior year, that's an opportunity for them to be even more immersed into the languages. And the other great thing is first year students, the various language programs typically do programming in those language houses. And so they have an opportunity to invite students from all different backgrounds who are interested in the various languages to be a part of the programming that's happening with the language house. So really cool piece that I find that not all campuses have a language program in the same way that we do, but ours is a joint effort between the academic program and also student life.
Now, can you talk a little bit about affinity groups on campus?
Yes. We do have communities on floors in the residence halls, particularly for our first year students. And so there are opportunities for students of color, for folks who are interested in understanding what it means and understanding identities associated and wanting to be a good ally to folks of color. There's a community around that. There's also what we call the Queer Collective, which is also, again, a space where students have an opportunity to understand and explore identity, in addition to, again, being in partnership and in community with allies who are supporting their development and their peers' development. So really great opportunities there. And then on top of that, we have a number of various clubs, identity-based clubs and organizations. And so we, again, partner very closely with the Office for Institutional Diversity to support our identity-based clubs and orgs. For example, we have an AAPI group, we have a Black Student Union, we have a Latinx Student Union, we have a queer resource center on campus. And then in addition to that, we have additional supports and resources, particularly when it comes to our students who identify as trans. And so we do a lot of work in supporting our trans students, both from a health and well-being standpoint. And so a lot of support over at the HCC, which is the Health and Counseling Center, to provide support for our students there. We recognize that not everyone has had a parent that has gone or a sibling that's gone through college that they can go in and connect with. So we have a number of different peer mentor programs here at the college that supports our students, and they come in before orientation, particularly for our first year students, where they get connected with a peer mentor. We have orientation wayfinding leaders, we call them OWLs, and those are student leaders who are upper class students who are helping students to navigate their first year at the college. Again, helping to learn some of the what we call the unwritten rules or the hidden curriculum of sorts. I think the other piece of it too is that our goal is to make sure that every student is successful. And the way that we do that is thinking about how do we reduce institutional barriers for students to be successful. And so at the end of the day, our goal is that if a student's having a hard time about something, we like to process through that and figure out what it is, because if it's impacting one student, it may be impacting a number of students. And our goal is to, again, reduce the institutional barriers for our students to be successful. Between our peer mentoring programs, the way we structure our processes and things of that nature, and how we scaffold the learning that is required, the way that our faculty members are engaged, particularly our HUME 110 faculty, and then the faculty advisor who's involved in our first year students' lives in a different way than typically, is all there to help our students be successful and thrive at the college.
Does Reed College have a chess club? And if not, if I'm admitted, am I allowed to start one?
So we do have a chess club already.
There we go.
And we do. We have a chess club already. And the other great thing is that the way to even start orgs is that you bring a group of students together. And so groups of students come together to start clubs and clubs and orgs. And so then they submit their requests to start a club and org, and they can get funding from our student senate to be able to do programming.
Study abroad, flexibility in taking courses. Study abroad, most of it is for students after their first year. Your first year, you're here for Humanities 110, so traveling off campus doesn't really fit sort of our first year curriculum. But after your first year, you can certainly study abroad. And it's one of the things that I think is actually growing, almost exponentially here. We've changed our model. We have almost twice as many people studying abroad this year than we did last year. And so I think based on that, you're just going to see more and more people are taking advantage of almost our 100 programs. And it really depends on the major in the program. You've really got to plan it. Some of our majors require more classes. And so making sure that this is an opportunity might not mean studying abroad traditionally. It might mean during the summer you're doing an internship or a research project that's off campus and somewhere else. For other students, they're actually enrolling into another college, for a semester. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to answer a few really quick hits sort of about the admission process. We are test blind, so SAT, ACT not required. We do take a look at it for English language proficiency along with the TOEFL. While Reed doesn't have merit scholarships, we have need-based scholarships, and we give you as much money as you need. And so we fulfill 100% of demonstrated need. And so if you're admitted, we're making our commitment to make this place affordable to you. I'll tell you all now, and you probably will find this at other schools, you won't always find your major. In other words, this is the thing I want to do, and this is what it's called. But you will find programs that will give you that opportunity. And I think public health is a great example. People interested in public health might do a biology program, a chemistry program. You might do economics, so you can really work through statistics and health statistics. And so a good question to ask anyone who you're with is like, how does public health look like at your school? And the best person to ask that is your academic advisor. And they will really say, when students go into this route, these are the things we've done. This is what we're looking at. This is how we connect you. What I can say is if you do well at Reed, you're going to do well anywhere. You've all probably heard me say that. But no matter the discipline, whether it be humanities or sciences, it's a liberal arts education, which means you're crafting together an education that makes you highly versatile and you have flexibility within the field.
For students who are not just thinking about public health, but any kind of area of study, is to think about the way our Center for Life Beyond Read thinks about this is our communities of purpose. And so there are we have, I want to say almost 7 or 8 communities of purpose that are centered around various topics about passion and purpose. And so someone who may be interested in pre-health or the sciences or whatever the case may be thinking about how do we cure illness in the world? Or you may have the piece around how you think about being an entrepreneur, and that may be the piece because you want to think about business aspects and things of that nature.
Because you do work closely with Center for Life Beyond Read, folks are kind of curious about the alumni record, the alumni network, if alumni stay in touch with the college and how they interact with like current students.
The Center for Life Beyond Read is working very closely with our alumni. And so there's a huge alumni network of folks. And so everything from students wanting to connect with alum from a career interest, all the way to having an alumni mentor, to being able to engage with alumni and different work experiences. One of the cool things that the Center for Life Beyond Read does is that they have alumni who are really working in all kinds of industries, but we do these treks. And so these treks are where current students go and travel to different locations, typically during a break or spring break or a fall break or in between the winter break, where they go and have an experience. And it's often connected to an alum at a business that is somewhere. So whether that's down in San Francisco, whether that's in New York or DC, our colleagues over at the Center for Life Beyond Read work very closely with our alums to do things like that.
Something I talk a lot about, and because of our de-emphasis on grades, how do you know you're being successful and doing well in the classroom? Have a conversation with your faculty member. I tell people oftentimes, you can ask your grade at any time, you'll get it, but what might happen first is that they might say, well, why do you want to see your grade? And if you say, you want to know how you're doing, they'll probably say, have a seat. Let's talk about how you're doing. How you feel about class? Are you grasping the concepts? And then after that conversation, if you're like, yeah, but give me my grade, they will. So that is not the focal point of your success. That it really is about acquiring information and knowledge, which I think, we talk about the end results for people once they're done, which are exceptional.
And I would just add on the other side of that is, now, if you're not doing well, we're going to let you know.
Right.
And our teams are here to help to support you. So we have a whole academic support office that's in student life that is there to help our students navigate the challenges that do come up when they do have them. And so our goal is, again, to make sure we want to make sure you're going to succeed and thrive. And we also want you to actually learn. That's the whole point of being in college. Coming to get this degree is actually to learn. And surprisingly enough, while students may not know their grades and things of that nature, the average GPA at Reed is fairly high. It's like a 3.6. So it's like it's fairly high. So again, like students are doing well, but the focus is not on the grades.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing, is this assumption that, if you don't get grades, how do you get into grad school? We're one of the best, and we're one of the top 3 in the nations for sending our 4th in the nation for sending students to get their PhD per capita. We have 2 people who are asking about research and research opportunities.
Well, everybody's going to do undergraduate research. You can't graduate Reed without doing a thesis at the end of the day, which is research. So that's number one. Number two, the other piece is that a lot of students end up working very closely with their faculty members to do undergraduate research. And so whether that's doing research throughout the course of the year, some students actually work with faculty during the summer and get paid to do undergraduate research. So there's some really cool ways that our students are starting doing research, even in their first year. So you're going to be able to get that opportunity because, again, our goal is to help scaffold the learning for you. So you'll learn these skills in your first and second year before you start to really dive into doing your own research that's connected to your thesis. So there's lots of opportunities to do research, and you have no option but to do research at some point.
And the nice part is it's not just for the sciences, it's for the humanities,
Yep.
it's all across the board. And that's kind of a neat part, that you can become an expert in your field. Folks are kind of curious about orientation.
Oh yeah. One of the first things during the summer, both parents and families and students, they have their own set of virtual options that we provide. That gives you a little bit more sense of what resources or how to connect with things, who to talk with, all of that good stuff. And then when you come in the fall, so you typically come in almost about 2 weeks before the start of before the start of classes. And so we spend that first week and a half really just getting you, we have in-person sessions, we have activities going, a lot of our traditions are happening at the same time. We do move-in at that same time. We do a family orientation program as well. Again, it covers the gamut of things, but for students, it is really focused in on what you need to know right then and there versus trying to say, let's fill in all this other stuff. And then throughout the course of the semester, we have our orientation finding leaders, who help students throughout the course of the semester, again, navigate the college experience. And a lot of times it's coming back to the things that they learned at orientation.
What do we love about Reed?
The grounds that Reed is on is a magical place. So whether it's being out on the front lawn, whether it's walking across the Blue Bridge and walking across the canyon, like these moments of being able to stand in awe of like what you're around. And I consider these moments of wellness and well-being in my mind, because when I see students sitting out on the lawn, I'm like, oh my gosh, how much joy is that bringing? Or you see that moment where you cross a bridge and the sun does come out here, by the way, I'm just letting you know, sun comes out. And when the sun comes out, it's really cool to see the reflection of the trees in the canyon, or to just sit out over in the amphitheater and just sit and just take it all in. It's like there's these magical places on campus, and as a whole, as a campus, brings a lot of joy and also just a sense of like, this is home. So if you haven't had a chance yet to get to campus, get on over here, because you will see the magic here. It is happening.
The people who work here really care about this place. Like I have, and so developing such a fun affinity, not just for the students, but for the staff members, the people who are out there supporting the students. And what I tell folks is that, as much as you've thought about faculty, as much as you've thought about students, we people who work here sometimes become a big part of your campus life. And I just love the idea that students are getting support in so many different ways, in their academic life, in their personal social life. But sometimes when they come to work, it's their chance to exercise a different part of who they are. And I think they find people that have a big well of love for them. So I think it's a really neat feature of this place.